to this episode of the Trip Planner 101. My name is Ray, and today we're going to talk about the first step in planning a trip to Walt Disney World, and that's cost versus budget. Now, it's not necessarily the most exciting thing to be talking about, but it's the most necessary. And so my hopes in today's video is to lay out the entire cost of a trip to Disney World, because I think what happens a lot of times is people plan vacations and they look at general costs, but they don't look at these small costs that add up towards the end. And then they come back and they end up regretting some of it because they spent more than they expected. So this is more of a kind of a punch in the face. Here it is. This is what you're going to expect. And if you plan for these things, that's going to be it from the moment you leave your door to the moment you return. So the first thing I want to talk about is in terms of value. So if value to you is simply just cheap, then perhaps Walt Disney World isn't the right option because it isn't cheap. For me, there are 4 things I look for in value of a trip, and that's what I call the 4 E's. Entertainment, escape, experience, and emotion. If I can check those 4 boxes, that means to me I've gotten a good return on my investment. And so, in my opinion, Disney double checks most of those boxes, and that's why I consider a trip to Disney World such a great investment. Like an all-in investment comparable to planning a cruise for your family. When I went to Disney World the first time, I realized this is kind of like a cruise on land. I'm here and I'm not worrying about anything. So today what I'm going to do is break this down into several categories. What I think are the major categories: lodging, food, transportation, park tickets, tips and gratuities, and then airfare. If you understand the budget and all of these, that's all you need to have a great and magical trip to Walt Disney World. What I'm going to do is break it into 3 columns: a low budget, a mid budget, and a high budget, so that you can see the scope. You can kind of decide where your personal budget is and then see if one of these options works for you, and then you can go from there. So let's get started with this. The first thing this is going to assume is that you're going to stay on property. In a future video, we'll talk about off-property options, but this one's assuming that you're going to stay on property and you want to take advantage of all of the perks that come with that. And it's also assuming that we're making a trip in September of this year. So this is that snapshot. Now, September is a value season, but it isn't necessarily the cheapest season. So you can kind of gauge in that range with the snapshot that I'm choosing. So these are numbers that I pulled straight off the website today, as far as if you were to book this right now. So for the low budget, the value resort is what they call them. It's $94 a night at the All-Star Movies Resort. And in the mid budget, these are called moderate resorts at Walt Disney World, and that comes in at $154 a night at Port Orleans French Quarter. And then at the high budget, these are what they call deluxe hotels. This hotel comes in at $354 a night, and that's the Animal Kingdom Lodge. So that gives you the first snapshot. Now let's talk dining. Disney has what they call the dining plan, and they have 3 different levels of that dining plan. And this is, again, so that you can purchase a package and not have to worry about it. It gets loaded onto your Magic Band. So when you go to eat, they just scan that Magic Band and it deducts the credit. So you don't have to worry about it. It's all paid for up front. For the low budget, I've chosen the quick service dining plan. So this comes with 2 counter service meals and 1 snack per day. And that comes in at $43 for adults and $17 for children per day. Then for the mid-budget, it's the regular dining plan, which has 1 table service, so it's like a restaurant, sit-down restaurant meal, and 1 counter service or quick service meal, and 1 snack per day. And that comes in at $62 for adults, $21 for children. And then, of course, on the high end, we have the deluxe dining plan, which is 3 full-service sit-down restaurant-style meals and 2 snacks a day. That comes at $112 for an adult and $53 per child. So those are the ranges of the dining plans. Another nice perk about the dining plans is they come with what they call a resort mug, and you can use that to refill endlessly during your stay at that resort at the food court of whatever hotel you're staying at. So that's kind of a nice perk. Plus you get a souvenir to take home as part of your trip. So those are the dining plan options. Again, it makes it so easy just to go in and not have to worry about the food and what you're going to have to pay for that. Then we're going to talk transportation. Now, on the low end and the mid end, we're going to call this free because Disney provides a service called the Magic Express. They mail you luggage tags, yellow luggage tags that you put on your luggage. You take them to your home airport, and then you fly to Orlando, and you don't even have to stop at the luggage. You just go down to their station, and you get on a Disney bus, and it takes you right to your resort hotel. And then magically later that day, your luggage shows up at your room while you're out in the parks enjoying yourself. They bring the luggage right to your room, and you don't even have to worry about it. It's a wonderful thing. So at the low and the mid range, I've chosen the Magic Express. So transportation while you're down there is free because you get to the resort hotel. They have a wonderful transit system between the buses and the shuttles that run every 20 minutes, and you can get where you want to on property and not have to worry about it. At the high end, I'm going to assume, this is just to throw out there, that you're going to want to rent a car at Orlando International, and that's going to be $60 a day. So those are your transportation options. Now your park passes, for the low end budget, I've chosen the single day park tickets, meaning that you can go to a different park every day, but you can't park hop. You just go to one park, you choose that park, and you stay there all day. That's $68 for adults, $54 for kids. Then for the other two, the mid and the high, I've chosen the park hopper passes, which is the opposite, means you can jump around from park to park throughout whatever day that you're there. That is $82 for adults, $78 for kids. So that takes us down to the tips and gratuities. So these are different across the board. For the low budget, I would anticipate that all that you would need is $20 to cover all of your tips and gratuities through the trip. What we like to do is pay $2 or tip $2 a day for housekeeping. They call it mousekeeping down there at the hotel. And then also the Magic Express, we tend to tip $2 per person when we get off. The drivers do accept tips as they do not work directly for Disney. So $20 total tips and gratuities to plan for that week. At the mid-range, I've put that at $100, and it's $2 a day for mousekeeping or housekeeping, $2 per person on the Magic Express, and then dining, because you are in charge of the tips for those sit-down meals. I did an average cost, and if you were to tip at 18%, or 15%, it would be $16 a day. So that comes up to $100 that you can plan on for that entire trip on gratuities. Then on the high end, it's going to be quite a bit more expensive. I would put housekeeping at $5 a day. You're going to want to tip bell services when you get there, about $5. And then because you've rented a car, it's the valet plus the tips for the valet for that day are going to run you about $40 a day. And then dining, because you are at 3 sit-downs a day for your party, it would be about $40 a day in tips, totaling $525 at the high end for your tips and gratuities. Then we have our final category, which is airfare. Now, we've done this before. We've gone down on a red-eye flight directly from Salt Lake to Orlando, and that costs us about $230 to $250 when we've done it. So that is an option. It does require you to check into your hotel and then either go to the parks or wait around for your room to be available. But you can make that work if you're so inclined. And then for the other two, mid and high, I just chose a standard ticket that if you pick it at the right time, you'll get for about $350 a seat. So what does the totals come up to for us? And this is for a family of 4, assuming 2 adults and 2 kids between the ages of 3 and 9. Because at Disney, once you turn 10, you're paying what the adults pay. So anyway, for this example, 2 adults, 2 kids. For your total trip, everything included, including airfare, at the low end budget would be $2,984. At the mid budget, $4,854. And at the high budget, $7,459. So you can see the spread, and you can see that there isn't a significant difference, but you can make something work all the way from just under $3,000 to almost $8,000, depending on how much you're willing to invest in the trip. But I'll tell you, some of the funnest and most exciting trips I've taken have been down there when I stayed at the Value Resort and got it on the cheap. So yeah, I don't think anything gets taken away from you depending on where you're staying. Certainly it's enhanced when you're staying in the nicer hotels because there just tend to be a little more amenities there. But it doesn't take away, when you walk into the park, it doesn't matter if you're staying in a Value or a Deluxe, you're treated the same, you get the same entertainment. So just to compare this, I went out and I did a fake booking for a cruise down that goes out of Port Canaveral in Florida, just outside of Orlando, and goes down to the Caribbean for the same amount of time in the same month. And for a low budget for the same group of people, it would be $4,628. For a mid-budget, $5,576. And for the high budget, $7,934. So you can kind of see how that compares to an all-inclusive, and that's airfare as well. See how that compares to the prices that you would spend at Walt Disney World. Very comparable, and in all three categories, it would be cheaper to go for a week at Walt Disney World. And to me, you're going to get so much more at Walt Disney World. That's what's kept me off of a cruise, is that I just don't know that I would find the same value. I've lived in the Caribbean for a couple of years. I'm okay. So there you have the overall budgets, and I hope this has been helpful if you haven't experienced this yourself, to kind of help you understand what there is out there and where you might fit in. That's it for today, and I know that, like I said, is a boring topic. Hopefully it was helpful and as fun as it possibly could be. I'm going to draw the name out of the Magic Mickey hat for the person in the Rocky Mountain Mouse video that answered the trivia question. I had several people respond, or at least put comments. Only one person actually answered the trivia question. So even though there's only one name in here, I'm still pulling out of the hat to be Magic. And congratulations to Marcy M. You've won 2 trading pins, two Disney trading pins. So message me on Facebook, or you can email me at ray@rmmouse.com. Send me your address, and I will get those in the mail to you. Those of you that are watching this episode, if you comment down below, I'll put your name in the Magic Mickey hat, and on the next Rocky Mountain Mouse episode, I will pull the name of that person, and they will win 2 trading pins. The next episode of the Trip Planner 101 will be talking about choosing a date. So the season that you choose to go into, and we'll talk about the kind of money you can save by doing that. I sure appreciate you watching today. Please check me out on my website, rmmouse.com. I'm slowly adding more content to that, so I'd sure love it for you to check that out. I'm also on Facebook at facebook.com/Rocky Mountain Mouse. My Twitter handle is rmmouse1, and I'm also on Google+. So check us out on all of those social media sites. And again, appreciate you watching and being part of this community. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time.